What up, y'all? This is TJ Stukes with the Hear Me Out podcast. And I have the privilege with introducing my brother, introducing himself. I've known him for a number of years, and this is one person I truly, truly value their friendship. And it's just been a long road. So, brother, please introduce yourself.
Illustrator, animator, moving into the fine art space a little bit. I also do reviews. I do so many things. Kind of wearing all the hats right now, but right now I'm just glad to be here on the podcast talking to my man TJ, man. It's always good to catch up, always good to talk about things in real time. Because it's one thing to do it over text, but you know, when you get that, like, the energy is a little different when you actually get to talk to someone in real time.
I just wanted to, thank you for being that friend, but I just wanted to highlight my friends because my friends are talented and I'm not just Squid Game, you know what I mean? But so tell me and the people where you from and you know what you do. And just you. Just let me know.
My backstory is a little bit boring. I always tell people I'm very boring. I was born out here, Van Nuys, California, Valley Presbyterian Hospital, like not too far from where I still live now, probably like a good 30, 40 minutes at the most. 1995.
Hey, it's crazy. Every black person knows their
We got
hospital
to.
where they was
And you know
born.
why though? Like your
It is
parents
so
will tell
funny.
you, and then like if you ever need that birth certificate, they can never find it. It's just somewhere in the house. So they remembered where the locations were because they're not going to be able to actually give you the document. So it was very important. So that's basically what it is. So I was born out there, March 28. I'm an Aries, so take with that what you will for the people who are into that kind of stuff. Um, and you know, growing up, just grew up in a very musical, very talented household. You know, my father and my uncles, they were musicians. They're the sons of one of the founders of the Pilgrim Jubilees, who are like a very classic gospel group from the like 1950s, 1960s. And so they were just musicians through and through, my dad and my uncles. So they used to tour with like Earth, Wind and Fire, so many of the groups in the 80s and 70s. And he was also an artist, so he taught me and my brother a lot about what we knew as far as like visual art, painting. He got a art scholarship for the Art Institute of Chicago when he was 12 years old. So he passed on a lot of tools to us. But at the same time, I think my brother and I both, we really learned just from each other. And that's something that I always like to tell people is, because there was a time when, you know, our dad was kind of in and out of the picture, and mom and him were having a lot of problems and things like that. So we didn't really grow up in a two-parent household. But you know, my brother and I, we really relied on each other for a lot of things, and we would teach each other different things. If whatever we learned, if we learned how to draw something a certain way, he would teach me, I would teach him, and it would kind of go like that. And that's kind of how we grew. So for the most part, we didn't actually have any formal like artistic education in that sense. You know, we did homeschool, private school, public school, and as far as like artistically, we pretty much learned everything on the fly, on the job, everything like that. So a lot of this, almost 90%, 99% of the skills that we have today were just organically homegrown.
So basically, self-taught, self-learned, and all this stuff you figured out yourself,
Yeah,
with technology and all that.
we came up in the era of YouTube University, and that was one of the most helpful tools that was ever invented. And this was before it kind of like turned into whatever it is now. This was back when people made very straightforward videos. The content was about education and less about entertainment. So I think we got, you know, a lot of really helpful resources back when we were coming up that we were able to learn with. Now I think everything's kind of a bit of a blur as far as online content and like things out there that you can actually use for education. Everyone's selling a course about something, and that's a discussion for a different day. But you know, back then it was a lot easier to just look for something and find it. And you know, we really maximized that, I feel like, and we were able to get a lot of really useful skills from that we were able to use and transfer into, the work that we do now. So, I've been able to, and I feel blessed to have been able to work with so many projects. I've done things with like BET. Last year, I had House of Vicious, which I think is still streaming now on the BET app. I did a film with MTV and Paramount. And a lot of these guys were really just like word of mouth clients and like people that were referred to me and things like that. So I've been super blessed to just have a really good network of people around me that I can always kind of like rely on, or they recommend me for things. So everything's very organic.
Wow. And so the one thing that one of my friends brought up said is authenticity is key, and you are one of the most authentic and homegrown people I know in general as a whole. You did some stuff though. You did some big projects, man. The projects that I've seen that you do, I'm like, wow, help me. So seriously, tell me on the art side, what have you done on the art side?
I mean, I want to touch on that. That was funny because I don't know if you've ever seen this meme. It was Daffy Duck and I think Porky Pig, and they were both dressed in like this Victorian era outfits. It's like, I'm trying to get like you. I'm trying to get like you. That's basically what it is. As it's real though, but artistically, I always kind of knew what I wanted to do. And I think that was the same thing for my brother growing up. A lot of people, when they're kids, you ask them what they want to do. Maybe they'll want to be a firefighter or a policeman or something. And the rest of the other half don't really know what they want to do. But I think me and my brother, we always kind of knew we wanted to create things. And on top of that, I always knew I didn't really want to work for anybody in the traditional sense. I think because partly I'm kind of lazy, and then the other half of that is just I like to make what I like to make, Like I want to create something that I enjoy. And a lot of the times that can involve, working on somebody else's vision or kind of building something with a team, which I'm a big fan of doing that. But at the same time, I always knew I wanted to create things that made me inspired or that I felt like could actually be helpful or put a message or help shape some kind of a change, even just to change an opinion into the world, And even when I was a kid, I knew right away that I would have to get very good at what I wanted to do very fast, right? Because I knew that what I wanted to do, you can go to college and things like that and get degrees. And those are actually things that I looked at a lot in the past and might revisit. But I already knew like, I want to jump into this head first, like once I get out of school, I want to just be able to walk into the industry and I want to be able to play at the same level that all the guys that I look up to are playing at. So we took commissions quite early on, like 12, 13 years old. I was doing commissions for super cheap, like probably like like $25. That was it at the time. And I still remember my first commission ever was to one of my online friends. Her name was Natalie, and it was a video game called Sword Art Online. And I don't even think that's around anymore, but it was just a drawing of one of her characters from that game. And that might have even been $15 actually. It was an important moment for me because I realized people will pay for this, and it kind of just spiraled on from that, So that was the beginning.
It doesn't feel real, but shit, like you made it and people want it. It's like, oh shit,
yeah.
On paper, like what?
That's the defining moment, because before that, it's just a dream, right? You're like, I want to be able to do this someday, and then when you actually get your first money for it, it's like, now it's a different kind of drive because you see where you can go with it, right? And maybe we'll touch on this later too, but I had a similar experience like 2 years ago. And when the fine art world kind of came and knocked at my door, and that was like a venue and an avenue that I wasn't even looking at, but like there's a market for that too. And that's like kind of what's helped me to travel over the past couple of years as well. Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of traveling, did you just come back from South Korea?
Yes.
Like, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, how was that?
That was interesting. That was really interesting because this kind of goes back to the thing I was mentioning. So from the beginning, it was about 2 years ago, 2023, because we're already in 2025 now, and I'm getting all my gray hairs already. So that kind of tells you what the timeline is. So the 2 years ago, 2023, I was on a website. I'm still there. It's called artstation.com. And a lot of industry professionals in the video game industry and fine art industry kind of use this website. And I would recommend anybody who is an artist listening to this to check that site out, because I feel like that's one of the more higher profile websites for artists to get noticed and to put their work out there. Um, and so I used ArtStation for a while, and it was kind of quiet. Like, I just uploaded my stuff there and kind of just left it, which is I wouldn't recommend doing that, but that's what I did. And that's one thing I need to get better at, is kind of like being more engaged online, which I think I was very big at when I started. And I think certain experiences kind of like reignite that in you. And I think this one was one of those, because somebody from Germany had actually discovered my portfolio. And the guy turned out to be Sven Sauer. And Sven is actually a gallery curator whose works in Germany, and he's done branded like gallery exhibitions for like Game of Thrones, George R. R. Martin, and HBO. He's done one for like, I think, Harry Potter and like a bunch of other properties, like big exhibitions that make the news in the local press in Germany. And he has an article in like the New York Times too, featuring one of his stuff. So he also is a concept artist. He worked on a video game called Horizon Zero Dawn. So he actually worked on that back in, I think that came out like 5-6 years ago. And so he was throwing the exhibition, and he found my work on ArtStation. And it was just a simple invitation. It was like, hey, could we feature your thing here? It's going to be here between this date and this date. Just confirm some stuff with us. We're going to send you some paperwork on some rights. And I signed everything. I checked them out. I Googled, because there's a lot of scams out here. I'm like, is this for real? And so everything checked out. You know, he was at the New York Times. I'm like, all right, so this is for real. And they're like, you know, if you want to come down, we'll save you some tickets and everything like that. We'll get you some spots. We'll get you a little compensation and everything, but it's not mandatory. But if you want to do that, you can. And I don't think he expected me to take him up on that. So I actually booked the ticket very last minute, because the thing about it was, when he sent that, I hadn't heard back from him after a little while. I signed all the forms, and then I didn't hear back from him from like another month. And so I thought maybe they canceled it or something. It's not going on. So I never booked the ticket. I never booked my plane ticket. And then I heard from him maybe like 3 weeks before the exhibition. And if you know anything about booking plane tickets, you need to book them. Can we curse on this show?
Absolutely, let it out.
You're booking a plane ticket, book that bitch the year before. Because now it's like a couple grand for a ticket that would cost you maybe half the price, right? So, because I was booking it just like 3 weeks, and we're going overseas. So,
No, let me ask the real question, the people's question. Was it worth it?
yes, it was absolutely worth it. And I'll tell you why. First of all, if you do Afterpay like I did for the ticket, it kind of pays for itself. It works out. So second of all, it was one of those things. It was my first time overseas, and
Really?
this is becoming a recurring thing for me now. When I was a kid, I said I'm never going to go to Comic-Con until I first go there as a vendor. I don't want to go there as a fan. I want to go there as a person actually selling content. I want to be a creator. I want to be at Comic-Con as a brand. And so the first time we ever went to Comic-Con was 2021. Yeah, it was 2021. And we went there, my brother, myself, my friend Eric, my friend Hugo, and we all went there as a brand. We all had our own books. We had our own merchandise. We brought out so many different guests. We had the voice actor for Naruto come to our booth and actually do a drop for our brand. We came there huge. And that was a promise I'd made to myself when I was a kid watching Comic-Con on like G4 TV when I was like 13 years old. And it was kind of the same thing with this situation for Germany. It was like, if I ever travel overseas, I want to make sure I'm doing it because it's my work taking me there. And I always knew it would do that. And so the first chance I got with this situation, when I got invited to the exhibition in Germany, that was like a fulfillment of something that happened when I was a child, right? So I knew I was going to be able to go overseas and do that. I didn't know when it was going to happen, but I knew it was going to happen. And, you know, growing up, my mom and my dad have always been very supportive about my art and my brother's art because they're artists too, I think, for the most part. My dad absolutely is. My mom, she doesn't technically formally do any sort of art, but I consider her an artist in a lot of ways. She's one of the best cooks, that I've ever known. And I think cooking is an art, but they've always been very supportive. But I've been around people who haven't been as supportive. Like there was a point where we lived with an aunt and she just hated that we did, me and my brother, we did art as opposed to like going for a real job, as people say, and she was like, this is never going to take you anywhere and all that. So the first post I made on Instagram, as soon as I got back from Germany, I'm like, you said my art wasn't going anywhere. I just got off the plane, bitch. So I'm back. And now we're here. And it was worth every penny, I would say. And that kind of extended to South Korea. Coming back to that, it was I was looking for more opportunities to do more exhibitions overseas because now that once I got a taste of Germany, I was like, there's a market here. People actually want to see the stuff that I do. Because I never considered it to be fine art or like exhibition worthy. That was always something I wanted to do, but I didn't feel like what I was currently making was at that caliber of quality. And this is kind of a good lesson, I think, for myself and maybe for other people in the sense that you never really know who's watching you. You know, the stuff that you're making, you could view it one way and somebody could view it a completely other way. Like for me, it was just the art that I make was just the art that I made. It was a part of me and I identified with it, but I never looked at it in an exhibition kind of setting. But when I actually go to these places like Germany and South Korea, to them that's like they've never seen that like kind of art style. Like they're like, how do you make this? And I'm like, this is just it's like it's just a Monday morning for me. Like I never thought of it that way. So I think people really should take a lot of pride in what they create, especially artists and creatives, and never sell yourself short. I think that's a big lesson there is to never really sell yourself too short. Because even if you don't know what something's going to turn out to be or where it's going, there might be. I'm a big believer in God, so you never know what God's cooking up behind the scenes.
So with the Squid Game shit, I applied,
Mm,
and then they told me yes, and I'm like, do I tell my job
damn.
that I go, or do I tell the producers I can't go because of my job?
Right.
And I was like, hell no, because this is a once of a
Look,
lifetime
you can ask for permission or you can
opportunity.
ask for forgiveness. That's what they say.
Ooh, I'm writing that down. I'm writing
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah,
down.
yeah. And the thing with that is like, when you put it out there, did you even expect like a callback or was it just a submission where you were like, it's probably going to get lost in there. They might not see it? Like, did you think had a good chance of getting picked?
Um, I don't get asked that question much. It was, I did it in such a nonchalant way, and I'm tall. I play basketball. I live in El Paso. I'm from New York, and I told them the truth, and that's all I say. And they called me like an hour later. It was like, hey,
Mm.
we don't have enough information to move forward, so would you mind talking to us? And a 5 minute phone call ended up turning to 3 hours. So
Yeah,
the
yeah,
rest is
yeah, yeah.
history.
Now they got like Funko Pops about you and stuff. He wasn't gonna mention that subtle flex.
Yeah, don't.
I'm trying to get like you.
Okay, okay. Just the realm of creativity. What would you, true advice to people in the peers in the animation and art realm? What what's something that you would say to them and give advice to those teens who look for guidance?
Hmm. What would I say? I guess that's kind of like what would I say to my younger self in a certain sense. I think it would be The same advice. Get as good as you can as fast as you can. Because if you know you're good at something, you have to take it seriously, you know? And I think that was something that I did very early on, and I think I did very well. And, you know, I remember there was a certain point, it was like 2008, 2009. Every afternoon, it was like 4 p.m. on the dot. I had my alarm set. I was just going to spend 2 or 3 hours just practicing. And I did that for like every day for like a year straight. There was just that point where I felt like, yeah, it was a point where I was like, I call it was like my Batman period. I was just like, I was just, and it was hot. We lived in a spot where like the air conditioner wasn't working. It would be summer. I wake up in the morning. I work out with like these dumbbells we had from Amazon. I like make sure I get my workout in, just by the bed, and then like 4 o'clock, I make sure whatever I'm doing, I'm playing a game, I'm studying. I just make sure I turn it off, and then I just draw. I just work on a particular aspect that day. Like I want to get better at drawing hands tomorrow, feet the next week, like eyes, faces. I would just pick a topic and I would just lock in on it. And I would say that to anybody, just get as good at what you want to do as fast as you can. And again, don't sell yourself short. And I think that's easy to do, especially once you, it's kind of funny because like once you do have a certain amount of success in an industry and you feel like you're comfortable and you kind of have a style. And I felt like that I kind of had an identifying look. And you know, don't get stagnant. That's the thing. Like one thing was I felt like I was falling into my comic book look, which it was making me money. And that was the thing. Like I knew how much I could get for what I would do. So I got comfortable doing it. But in the back of my mind, I always wanted to branch out. I wanted to experiment with animation. I wanted to experiment with digital art. I wanted to experiment with like 3D. And so never get too stagnant. And those are the things that once you start introducing different aspects into your art the way it already is, that's when you're going to start finding the creativity. Because the creativity doesn't happen when you know more things. The creativity happens when you don't know more things. That's the thing about it. Because once you're like locked in about rules and once you're overthinking things, now you can't actually get it done. But when you don't know what you're not supposed to do, that's when you just have like free reign to like roam and start making things. And that's, I think some of my best work has come out of those moments where I have the technical skills, but I also still have the creativity. So I think people should never lose the creativity, never lose the fun, you know, never lose the sight of why you're doing what you do, why you love what you do. And maybe we can talk about that too. But I think there was a period where I felt just kind of like unproductive, I think is the word. And I was kind of trying to figure it out. It was something that kind of really transpired a year ago and a year and a half kind of ish. And I was just going through the motions of doing the work and everything. And I was doing projects that were doing well, but I wasn't super excited. And I just felt slow. I felt like unproductive. I felt like I wasn't putting out my best stuff and I just didn't have the drive for it. And during that time, you know, there was so much stuff going on with my mom's health. And, you know, she's a survivor of COVID Delta back when that was a thing. And it almost killed her. But it didn't, thank God. She's still alive, but it really wrecked her body. So that was a huge transitionary period where, you know, I had to stop taking a lot of work. And so there was this interval where it was just between taking care of her, trying to make the money, taking care of her, trying to make the money. And I felt like I was kind of just stuck between where I knew I could go, but I couldn't go because like I still had other commitments and responsibilities. And then I felt like this mental sort of just a drag. And I went to look at it online. I'm like, why do I feel so uninspired? Why do I feel so sluggish? Why do I feel so, you know, it's like I don't want to do anything, you know, and you look at symptoms of depression, and I'm not a therapist, but I think there's a certain point where you can be overwhelmed and then maybe some sort of aspects of depression kind of kick in because it can kind of manifest in different ways. And it's just like you knew you could be somewhere, but you're not there yet. And it's like, you know, you feel this kind of weight of like an unfulfilled potential in a certain aspect, but you still have responsibilities, you still have things to take care of. But creatively, because I don't really believe in like writer's block, and I don't believe in artist block and things like that. Because for me, it was something way deeper than that. It was just like a fundamental sort of like feeling of just being stagnant and just being sad, really. And I think that was the space I was in for a long time. I think I was overcommitting to people and things and not putting out my best work. And I think there was a time when I think a lot of things just kind of fell through artistically. And, you know, I kind of had to get over that. I think I've been getting over it, especially the past year, like the last 6 to 8 months has been a really good period for me where I've just been seeing where the art has been able to take me. And I think that's really been reigniting that spark in me. And so I want to tell people just like, don't lose that creativity because it's going to take you a lot of places.
Yeah, what you're saying, it correlates to mental health. And you know how mental health correlates to the
Mm.
physical health. The mind follows the body follows the mind. So to have that mental space, the mental awareness to know how you feel. However, sometimes being sad,
Yeah.
it always correlates to work. So like when you're happy doing your job, it's easy to work, but when you're sad and you still have to work,
Yeah.
that's a whole nother level. They tell you to put your head down and work or suck it up or
Yeah.
just be strong and after you said it could resonate for a lot of people and just to let especially black men,
Mm.
it's okay to take care of yourself. It's okay. You're not being selfish by taking care of
Yeah.
yourself. You're not being selfish. It's not selfish. And so thank you for even saying anything because so many people
Yeah.
it takes a lot of strength. So thank you again. And not just there's so many people who struggle with that. And so many people are going to feel heard because of what you just
Yeah.
said.
But I wanted to ask you because, you know, you were on Squid Game, and I know this about you just in general is like you're very expressive. Like honestly, I think and I really genuinely mean that in the best ways. Like I've never seen you really like hold back on if you're feeling something, if you need to express something, if you need to share something. And even over the weekend when I don't know if it's already out there, but like you had that incident and we were talking about it with the coaching thing, and you don't hold back on things, and that's something I really respect and admire about you. But like when you're in those situations where you do need to give yourself some self-care, like what does that look like to you? What does self-care look like for TJ Stooks?
Ooh, um, wow. I am very rarely asked that. Thank you for asking that. That caught me off guard. I wasn't ready. Self care, truthfully, I'm around people so much, and kids, wife. True self
Mm.
care is silence. It sounds outdated. It sounds weird, but just silence. And like one thing, it sounds weird, but I prefer sitting with my wife in silence and just
Mm.
listen to a story I've never heard before. And it may
Yeah.
be bad or good, but at least I know that it's a story being told. I dove into a world where I have a tremendous amount of empathy.
Mm.
And the stories is being told like I dove into a
Yeah.
world where it's like the manga. The manga people don't usually read, or that's the realm I've been in the last few weeks, discovering new mangas, discovering new comics. Like with some great stories, but
Yeah.
like telling like reading the story and then imagining how they sound, imagining how they are, just imagining and basically reinvigorated my imagination. It jump
Mm.
started my imagination all over again. And like the world where nothing is left to the imagination anymore. That's my self-care.
Amazing.
Choosing my imagination in
And
silence, of
you,
course.
because like I'm in a like relationship now, serious couple months. I'm really excited.
Ladies in a relationship.
Yeah, we're
Ladies, he's in a
taking, we're not taking
relationship.
any more
Back off.
applications. Hiring is closed. No more free agencies. We've hit the cap on the team budget. So that's what's going on right now. Is we're locked down, and it's great. And that I want to tie those two things in because like you've been married for a while, right? So you have some experience in this area. Is like, how do you incorporate your spouse into your self-care too? Like, do you guys do anything together as a couple that make it so that you guys feel more comfortable in the space together, or do you feel like you guys need time apart to kind of relax and recover and then come back together? Like, what does that look like? Hmm.
Wow, another great question, and it's a mix of both. Um,
Hmm.
it's a mix of being under each other, and at the same time giving each other space. So, like I'll be like doing nothing with her. I'll be right next to her, dead silent, just looking at what
I
my
learned that's a
comments
big thing, by
or
the way, over the weekend. So thank you for. I had a lesson in that.
like
I wish we had this conversation a week
like
ago. That is very important. Yeah.
and uh, um like I
Yeah.
like I look at reality TV, but she looks at different reality TV from what I do, and all of a sudden I am
Mm.
invested in Ugly Betty and the Kardashians. So when I look at
Right.
when she looks at some stuff, I act like I'm not paying attention. Then I start asking questions, and just listening. Like, wow,
Right.
damn, that must be difficult. Or watching Ugly Betty, So laying down and just laying down. We rarely have nothing to do, so just sitting there and doing actually nothing for a
Right.
change. That is huge for self care and what we do together.
Facts.
Because sometimes we just do too much. And I said, like, when
Yeah.
she intertwines into my self care is me being she takes care of me as a man, and I'm playing a game, or she's looking at another show, or she's on the phone playing a little like
Hmm.
home skates game, and that's her self care. That's self care to me. Just her being around my space and us not doing anything. And there's times we be like, go, let's go out somewhere, let's do something, let's have some fun. Uh, um, but being in that
Yeah.
same space and just quiet, it just means so much. Like there's not many people you can spend time and in silence and just being in my space. Like I love that when it's only her because there's so many people I don't like in my space. And
Yeah.
like and again when she's watching her show and watching, and I'm like, yeah, that's the answer.
Yeah. I mean, like I'm
That's the
I'm
answer
always
right there.
interested, and my girl Brienne, she always kind of jokes about this when we get into these rooms with like married couples. I always ask everybody like, "What's the secret?" And she's like, "You always ask that question," but I'm like, because I want to know from people who have been there. Like I want to know what actually works. I don't want to just watch a video about somebody talking about what they think works, or I want to actually hear from the people who are there what actually works. Like, what would you recommend? Give me like married man advice. I need just like one good topic, one good thing to always remember.
Okay. Like when people say like, "Oh yeah, I know that like you like what's the secret?" But like I ask the
Yeah.
person always, "Are you ready to hear this?" And then they'll be like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah." Like they don't know what I'm about to say, but they
Mhm.
swear they're ready. And the answer is be prepared to look yourself in the mirror because without work, it will not work. Looking at yourself in the mirror is one of the most difficult things you could do as a human being. And as a man, no less, we don't face
Yeah.
that negativity within us because there's something holding us back. Like we're scared of growth. Whatever's in your path, like you got to walk that path by yourself, and people swear that they are ready.
Yeah.
And when I tell people that answer, they're like, "Damn, that's deep." I'm like, "Yeah, it's
Yeah.
deep. Be prepared to take that deep dive with yourself, because nobody else will. Because you have to get dirty to be clean. In my past, I was a fucking terrible human being for a while, and I felt like a bad father for a while and a bad husband. And like when I sat in that embarrassment, that dirt, that and
Mm.
when I was
I was
making
gonna
all
ask
that
that
money,
too.
I
Like,
thought that
if
being
that's
present.
if providing security and stability is the goal, isn't that enough?
No, 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 no. Absolutely not. But I was making money, and me being there, the way I seen it was making sure everything was good, paying bills and all that. The crazy thing is with paying
Mm.
bills, and
Right.
you lose valuable time. So when your significant other ask you like, what do you want to do with a family, just little stuff like already cooked you breakfast, babe, like, and when you get to that point, it's much deeper than being in love. Like now it's a connection, and
Mm.
I'm enjoying the time with you, and we're a team. It's not just like you and me, like it's us now. And that security, when you do that for the person, it means a lot, because now they can
Mm.
trust you with things beyond all that stuff, because that's not all comes with it though. Like
Yeah.
as a man, there's a lot of sacrifice taking care of yourself, and that often gets overlooked. And me and my wife personally, we we almost lost ourselves many times,
Mm.
and we still chose each other. So it wasn't like, oh, we're stuck with each other. We chose each other. And actions speak 10 times louder than words, much louder. If in
Yeah.
if you're stuck, like giving your space to somebody who doesn't give a
Yeah.
fuck,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
why are you doing it? You feel me? And now that trust is deeper
Yeah.
because you genuinely don't know,
Yeah.
and she doesn't know
The
that
thing
you don't
about it
know.
is, if that no, you don't know is never a good enough answer. I really don't know though. I don't know what the fuck.
And there's times where like you have to
Yeah.
explain yourself, and you genuinely don't know, and, and it's like you don't know what you don't know, and it's crazy what. And back to going to the answer, is like having that conversation with yourself, having that time with yourself, and understanding like this is shit is bigger than you, fam. And
Mm.
we always become the person that we don't want to be. So with all that, there's a quote I heard where love will break us, love will hurt us, but love is the only thing that'll save us.
Mm. I like that. I like that.
I was like, fuck, that's
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
super
Yeah.
deep. Like, damn, that was deep as hell.
That was like that. With great responsibility comes great. That's like
Absolutely.
now you're ready to put the mask on.
Yo, yeah. And being being in a
Mhm.
long-term relationship started from basketball culture. With relationships, you get clowned up on for being in a relationship. And meeting my wife in college, I didn't take her seriously at first. We fell in
Yeah.
love 2 weeks later because we was texting 24 hours a day, all day. And she knows this now, but she didn't know this for years. And when the day I met her, like I
Mm,
felt the shittiest I felt in years when I met her. And God makes things happen for a reason.
yeah.
And she was my reason, and it was so crazy. And
Yeah.
she don't realize how better she made me that
Mhm.
day. And it was just so crazy, like how fate works. Have faith in fate. That's just what I say.
Yeah.
That's one of my sayings. So, how important to you is mental health, just in general?
Massively. Because one thing I learned, it's like when you're on a plane, when that plane's about to go down or there's some turbulence or oxygen's changing, you got to put that mask on yourself before you put it on anyone else. So mental health is really that important because there have been times where I can't show up for anybody if I'm not showing up for myself. So if something's wrong with me, it's gonna show, it's gonna come out in different ways. And I always want to try to come out as my best version of myself for other people. But for me to do that, I got to show up as the best version of myself for myself. So that means like being strict about, you know, my Sundays. Like I know Sundays are my days. And I have been a little bit lax about it the past 2 weeks, but top of the year, last year I was super strict and I'm going to get back into it again. Just about having my Sundays for myself. Like I fast for a few hours, like 6, 7 hours. I do my prayers, my meditations, my journaling. I really feel like I can commune with God and kind of get right back in my spirit, get back in my body, even if I'm feeling too out of it. Excuse me. And very, very strict about having a self care day in the week. And it's the day that you just unplug from everything, no phone. Like I'll do some work if there's like emails or things like that that I need to respond to, but just having some time to myself where I can just regenerate mentally and just have that capacity to take on the next week is like massively important. And I learned that because a couple years ago, I was taking, and this is before I kind of like got into dancing as a hobby, which, now I do. A lot of people joke about it now because I post so much about my like Latin dance experience on my Instagram now. Like I do salsa, I do bachata dance. Um, but before I was even doing that, I was just swamped with work. Like work was my personality. Like I didn't really have anything I was doing outside of that. And I found myself super burned out. I was just exhausted. Like every day was just a routine of getting up, working, getting up, working, getting up, working. And it just took all the energy out of me. And so my brother was living with us at the time, and he went to New Jersey to live with his girlfriend. And that was kind of I want to actually call it a very formative moment for me because I realized when he left, so much of my personality was kind of wrapped up in like being Aaron's brother as well. Like, because he was the outgoing one and I was the introverted one. So whenever we were out in social settings, he was the guy who like made things happen. He was the guy who talked to people. He was the guy who was like the life of the party and whatever. And I made sure everyone was recorded. Like I filmed things when they were happening, but Aaron was really the guy who was out there. And so once he kind of left and I was just so busy working, I realized I got to do something outside of this. I got to really take care of myself and really become more of myself. It wasn't so much a question of who am I? Like a lot of people will go through that phase where they're trying to figure out who they are. I felt like I knew who I was. I just felt like I wasn't optimizing like my personality and myself to my full potential. So the reason that's important for mental health to me is because once I started having activities that I enjoyed doing, once I started expanding my social circle and kind of like being more active and outside, that really, really helped calm me down. I felt like it, you know, regulated my nervous system. And I just felt a new level of confidence, a new level of peace, a new level of, you know, just happiness and joy. Like being outside, dancing, moving, being outdoors, having sunlight, like all these things, they sound so basic and so like preschool, but it's, you know, all that stuff really affects you. Because in my line of work, I'm sitting indoors behind the computer 90% of the day. Like I don't talk to people. You know, I always joke with my girl Brienne, like I don't go outdoors. Like she's like, you've never been to this party, you've never been to that. I'm like, I don't go outdoors. Like, you know, she thought I was a hoe when we met, but I'm like, I don't go outdoors. Like I really don't. Like I don't see people that much. So, you know, anything else is like new to me. So like once I really started going out dancing and like having fun and doing these things, and I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do anything crazy, but for me it's just about having movement, having activity. All that really was so good for my mental health. And I would recommend that for everyone. And it doesn't have to be dance like that. If that's not what you're into, you don't have to do that. But just have a self-care day. I would recommend have community activities, if you want to call it that, and then just have time for family and friends. Like I think those are the three key elements. It's about yourself, it's about your tribe. That's what I always kind of like to call it. And then it's about your family. So I think those things are like super, super important for mental health because I never want to be in the space where I was 2 or 3 years ago where I just felt completely drained. Like I didn't feel like myself at all. I just felt like a zombie because I was just everything was work, you know?
Tired.
I'm just tired. Like I didn't you're putting out work and the work is good, but you're not happy. And to me that was like the key was I wanted to be happy. Because you can do what you love, but if you're just doing it to make money, then it's a job, you know? And I never wanted to feel that was the thing I wanted to avoid when I was a kid, if you recall. Like I didn't want to feel like I was working a job. I wanted to create things that I made me happy. So for me, like mental health is so, so, so massively important. And that's why I kind of kept up with, you know, dancing and being outdoors and like fitness and all these things. I always post my like gym stories out there and like people kind of clown me for that too sometimes. But one of our guys, you know, Okami from the Twitter chat and everything. I don't know if you know him, but he's always like, the Avengers are gonna call you one of these days. Like, I'll be ready though. Like for real, I'm trying to like, I got to make sure my body stays in good shape, my mind stays in good shape because all of it's connected, you know. And that's why I know I'm giving very long answers. By the way, you can stop me at any time, but like,
No,
I'm
no,
always
you
see
are
like
good.
where conversations are kind of interconnected and topics to revisit. And I know you said, damn, what did you say? Now, like, I'm all over the place.
The initial
Yeah, because it was
question?
before that. It was before that. But we'll get back to it. But I said all that to say, like, mental health is like it's super, super, super important. And I think it really interconnects with all these things physically and mentally because you can't have that's what it was. It's about looking yourself in the mirror. And I'm big on that too. And I love that answer that you gave in regards to marriage, but also in regards to everything.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I'm a very big reader or audiobooks, a listener if you want to call it that. I call it reading, but I'm very big on like self-help and like kind of exploring and diving deeper into my own psyche. Like why do I do the things that I do, right? I always want to figure that stuff out. And self-reflection is massively important to me because I always say growing up, one thing I learned from both of my parents is more than what to do is what not to do. Like I don't want to make the mistakes that my parents did. And as much as I love them, I always want to be like the better version of that. So, you know, looking at yourself in the mirror, all of that to me ties into mental health is just to be able to self-reflect and evaluate. Because if you never do that, you'll never see how you can improve your health, right? You don't know what's wrong, you don't know how to fix it. So for me, all of these things, fitness, you know, dance, art, creativity, fitness, you know, having a partner that you can bounce things off of and like decompress with them too, as well as apart. Like all of that to me fits into the category of mental health.
Uh, Yeah, simple as that. Wow. You know, people don't realize
Mm,
how fragile the human body is. You know, if your mind doesn't
yeah,
follow your body's not going to do anything. And people, you know, just taking care of self. If you don't grow, you just, it's just
yeah.
everything will hold you back if you don't grow.
Hmm. That part.
And you got to grow. Um, that's why I always answer that. What's the secret? What's the secret? You know, I answer, just look yourself in the mirror. That hard
Yeah,
look in the mirror is not going to be easy, but
yeah.
you know,
It'd
it's
be hard
always
though,
hard sitting
bro.
in what you
Like
did and what you didn't
sometimes
do.
I'm telling you, it'd be hard to like, because you can make so much progress and then you look back at yourself and there's still stuff that you gotta fix. And that's the part that just like kills me, bro. It's like I thought we were over this.
Yeah, rough. Yeah, but we could talk for hours for this. But what's next for you? What's the next agenda? What's the next big thing? What's going on with your future, Eli,
Hmm.
aka
I
Atlas?
mean, I want to talk about some present stuff and then some future stuff if I could. Right now, my brother and myself and our publishing and record label company, iDroid Publishing and Destiny Music Publishing. As you know, my dad and my uncles are also musicians, so we do music as well. We have a couple of new releases. My brother released his newest single, which is like his first record in I think like 5 or 6 years. It's called "I Wish You Were Here." It's an album. It's on Spotify. You can find it under Aaron K, AARONKAYE. I produced like 2 records on that. We did a bunch of writing together. We shot the video for the first single, "Be My Lover." It's on YouTube right now. We're actually, as soon as I'm done with this interview, we're going down to the airport to shoot a video over there at Burbank Airport.
Wow,
So that's going to be probably take
wow.
up the rest of the day. So we have that. It's currently on Spotify, Apple Music. "Wish You Were Here" by Aaron K. Still doing like animated work with anime hip hop. We're still coming up with like merchandise. We're still doing the IPs. We did some work with Rikishi from the WWE. We have Kishi and the Island of
Wow.
Dreams. Episode 1 has been out for a little while now. We're working on episode 2. It's a comic book based off of Rikishi and his sons, Jimmy and Jay Uso, and the Usos. And it's a little bit like the Avatar: The Last Airbender, uh, like kind of sci-fi, kind of fantasy, but it's based in Samoan culture and Samoan uh, the kind of mythology that they have in there, which is very unexplored. People always go for like Greek mythology, Roman mythology, but Africa has mythology, Samoa has mythology, Asia has mythology, and so we really wanted to tap into the ones that weren't as explored. So that's what we did with that series, while keeping it very authentic to Rikishi and his brand. We also have, what else do we have on the horizon? We got so much stuff going on. Um, yeah, so much more music from Destiny Music Publishing. We have Aaron's probably going to start touring very soon. We're going to start announcing those dates. I'm going to be involved with all that stuff. Um, for me personally, I'm also going to be doing more exhibitions, more gallery stuff. Like that's still stuff I'm looking into getting to more. South Korea was a lot of fun. It was extremely cold, and they told me when I went there, they're like, "You should come back in the spring. It's a lot different," because
I could
there was
only
a
imagine.
snowstorm as soon as I landed in a blackout. But personally,
A
I
blackout.
actually kind of enjoyed the there's something about being in the snow, but also about being in the snow in a foreign country, which is also kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's a very very cool vibe. But I'm going to be doing more exhibitions and stuff, leaning more towards the fine art side of things. Now that I know there's a market there, like I just want to optimize it, maximize it. I want to get my name out there, and I really want to spread the message that we do belong in these spaces, right? Like when you think of fine art, you don't always think of like people that look like us, you know? You think of like an
Mhm.
Italian from like 500 years ago who made a marble statue, and that's great, but there's so many of us with so many talents out here that are still alive and we're creating great things. And there's a series that I started, I want to say last year. Yeah, last year. And I came up with it sort of the year before that, but I actually fleshed the first piece out. It's called Angelitos Negros, which I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's Spanish, but the title is basically Black Angels. And it's kind of a series
Wow.
that I wanted to expand on where it takes different stories and different scenes from the Bible. Some of them are like famous, and some of them are kind of just the smaller stories. And I wanted to expound on it with Black faces, like Black, historically accurate to the times expansions on biblical stories. So, like, not a blonde haired and blue eyed Jesus, but like a Jesus who looks like he actually comes from that region, you know, curly hair,
Mm-hmm.
like dreadlocks, like things like that. And so that's a series that I really wanted to expound on. Currently, a lot of it's digital art. There's like 2 entries. I'm planning the next couple of ones, and I want to start expanding those to like canvas and like actually making them like paintings for people to actually like have in the galleries and the exhibitions, and eventually to auction on, and like really kind of make a dent in the fine art world. That's one thing I'm really looking forward to. Film and TV stuff is always rolling. You know, there's always commercials and stuff I'm working on. A lot of stuff I can't talk about because of NDAs, but
Yeah.
there's still
Understand.
stuff rolling
Understand.
that, you know, that's going to be coming out very soon as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. But that's awesome, man. This is wow. We covered all the bases. I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for being a friend, and thank you for being you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Happy Black History Month. We still black.
Happy Black History Month. but this is the Hear Me Out podcast. Peace out, y'all.
That was great.
That was fantastic.